Welcome to section 4.5, and we are going to continue with chapter 4. Now, this is asking you to write an equation of a line, but there's a little catch here. This is going to have you write an equation in different forms, and recognizing what each form is going to become most important. We began chapter 4 by talking about standard form. We just finished with slope-intercept form. These two forms are how our final answer will be looking. But there is a third form that we're going to introduce you to today. Now, this is known as point-slope formula, and this is going to be a method that gets you to either standard form or slope-intercept. And point-slope form depends on what you have. And I'm going to talk more about it. But notice the words here. This says you have a point and a slope. Now, that is different than slope-intercept. The y-intercept is a specific point. The y-intercept has a value for y when x is 0. And those two forms we're going to be using, and then we're going to finally write a form that either is going to leave it in slope-intercept, or we're going to put it in what we call standard form, which you know as ax plus by equals c. Okay? And then we're going to write equations of horizontal and vertical lines, and hopefully you're pretty familiar with those. And then we're going to look at the equations that are parallel and perpendicular again. Remember, parallel means same slope. Perpendicular means the signs change and we're flipping the fractions, or negative reciprocal slopes. And then, of course, we've got story problems to look at. Oh, I can tell you're excited again. Well, let's begin. Okay, this is the form known as standard form, and we've been talking about this since the beginning of the chapter. And we've used it several times in the lessons that we've been working with. Now, there is a little hint that I do need to let you know. When you have fractions and decimals, you don't have your equation in standard form. Standard form has A, B, and C as whole numbers or integers, and there's also the A. This first term can only be positive. Now, with that said, let's kind of do a little review and then add on to what we've learned. As I mentioned, there's different forms that you're going to be working with. Now, this is a new form that you haven't seen. This is talking about point slope. Well, you need this slope. If you don't have it, you got to use this formula. Okay? Because you'll be given 2 points. But notice you're going to be using the first point in this equation. This is y minus the y value in your first point is equal to your slope, parentheses, x minus the x value in your first point. Now, the second point is only given so that you can determine the slope. Without 2 points, you don't have a line. Okay? And then you're going to find that the point-slope form, you're either going to put it in what we call slope-intercept form. A lot of times you do that because you want a graph. Or the easiest way to solve an equation is to put it in slope-intercept. But you're also going to find that they're going to ask you to write the equation in what we call standard form, which is ax plus by equals c. Now, let's show you. We're going to start writing equations in standard form. Now, first off, standard form is ax plus by equals c, where the a term, this has got to be first when you read from left to right, but a has to be positive. Well, first off, if we look at this first problem, notice my by is not on the same side as the x. My negative 11, which is my c, is also on the wrong side. Now, you can quickly write negative 5x. Now we're going to bring the 2y so that it falls behind the x term, and then we're going to move the 11 to the other side of the equal sign. But remember, this a cannot be negative, which is what it is here. So that means I'm dividing everything by negative 1. So my standard form equation is 5x plus 2y equals negative 11. That's my answer in standard form. Now the next one, little more interesting, because again, we're talking standard form. ax plus by equals c. But if you look at this, it's got fractions. Do you remember? I can't have fractions in standard form. Standard form is no fractions, which means I've got to get rid of them. Well, I'm going to multiply each term by an LCD, which is 12. Because I've got to get rid of the fractions. Standard form will not allow for it. This will give me 12y. Now remember, I'm going to cross cancel here. This 3 and this 12 will give me 4x minus, well, this 4 and this 12 are going to cross cancel to give me 9. Okay. Now, this 4x is on the wrong side. It also has to be in front of my by term, which means I'm now going to have a negative 4x plus 12y equals negative 9. But remember, this a term can't be negative, which means I'm dividing everything by negative 1. this will give me 4x minus 12y equals 9. This is my equation in standard form. No fractions, no decimals. Now, that seems pretty easy. Well, let's get a little more interesting. Okay. Now, this is where you're going to have to understand what you're given compared to what you want the equation to be written as. Now notice it says write an equation of a line, and here's the catch, in slope-intercept form. Well, if you remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Well, see this -7? That's my m. Now, do you remember what this is? The b is the y-intercept, which means the b is 4. This is my equation in slope-intercept form. Intercept has a 0 for x when b is the number, and b goes right there. Okay. Well, let's try again. But except we're going to have a little change here. This is asking you to write your answer in standard form. Well, remember, this is ax plus by equals c. Now, getting to this form, what do I have? I have a slope, and I have a y-intercept. So that means the first thing I'm going to do is write y equals 6x plus 2. I'm using what I have. This is a slope, which is 6, and I am told I have a y-intercept, which means this is the b in my equation. But that is not standard form. That means I'm going to put -6x in front of my y equaling 2 because it's got to fit this form. Well, remember, a can't be negative, which means I'm dividing everything by -1, which will give me 6x minus y is equal to -2. This is my standard form. Okay. Now we're going to get a little more interesting. Okay. They want my answer in slope-intercept form. Now, this is where you need to recognize that this is a point, or I take that back. This is a slope, but this is a point. That's what you now must remember. This is the new equation. I have a slope, I have a point, which means I've got to start with this form in order to get the form so that I have a slope-intercept form. Well, let's show you how we do it. Okay. This is my x1, y1 point, which means y minus y sub 1 is equal to mx minus x sub 1. This point is going to fit right in those two slots. And my slope, which is a fraction, is going to sit right here. Okay. Well, let's fill it in. Y minus 5 is equal to 3/5 x minus 2. Well, remember, slope-intercept is y equals to mx plus b. Well, I have the y, and if I distribute, I have the mx. But this 5, and when I distribute, I've got to put those together, which means this is y equals, and I'm going to distribute. This is going to give me 3/5 x minus 6/5 minus or plus 5. I've got to put these together. They are my b term. But I've got to have common denominators, which means this has got to be 6/5. Well, if I put a 1 under here, this is going to give me 25/5. This is my b term, which means my equation is y is equal to 3/5 x plus 19/5. That's my answer. That's my answer. And remember, slope-intercept can have fractions. Standard form can't have fractions. And let's go right here. Okay, I want my answer in standard form. This is my slope. This is the point, which means I have point slope form I have to use. Well, I know that this -3 is my slope. Not a problem. I'm going to put it right here. This is my x1, y1. which means this is y minus 5 equals x minus 2. Well, I've got to distribute here. This is going to give me y minus 5 is equal to negative 3x plus 6. But remember, standard form is ax plus by equals c. This negative 3x has got to come to this side because it's got to be on the by side. So this will give me 3x plus y equals, well, now this negative 5 and this 6 is my C term. And notice it's to the right of the equal sign, which gives me 11. Huh? Notice what I have. I have a point and a slope. And as you see, that's what we're using. You've got to have a slope. If not, we've got our little slope formula, which we have to use. And it is from this form that we can write standard form and slope-intercept form, depending on what I'm being asked to give. Now, this is where it gets interesting, and this is where it can get a little long, okay? Now, first off, I want to write my answer in slope-intercept form. Okay. Well, I'm going to be doing two things here, okay? And I'm going to bring that there. Okay. Do you see this word slope? I don't have a slope. That means I have to find the slope first. This is x1, y1. This is x2, y2, which means my slope, remember, is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Well, I've got to fill in. Well, this y is right here. This is going to give me 1 minus, because remember, this is part of the formula. Now, y1 is right here, and that's a positive 7. Now, x2 is 2, but don't forget, it's minus x1. Well, this is a negative 5. Notice how I put the negative 5 in parentheses, whereas the 7 I didn't? Well, my slope is going to give me a negative 6 over a positive 7. This is my slope. Well, remember this lovely point? This is going in y minus y sub 1 is equal to mx minus x sub 1. This is my slope. That's going to sit there. This is this point. I don't want to look at this point again. So going to the other slide, okay, my blank one, let's fill this in. Y minus, well, if I look at my point, it's 7 equals negative 6/7 x minus, and don't forget, it's a minus 5. Okay. Y minus 7. Okay, let's take this a little bit at a time. This is negative 6/7 x. Now remember, this is a positive 5, and I'm distributing. So this will give me a minus 30/7. Okay, slope-intercept is y is equal to mx plus b. Well, I have the y on the right place. I have mx over on the right place. But this negative 7 and this negative 30/7, they've got to become my b. So this is y equals, now I'm putting negative 6/7. Now I have a negative 30/7 plus 7/1. I got to put these together. Negative 30/7, common denominators. This 7/1 becomes 49/7, which means my final answer is y equals, now I'm going to tell you they're going to put the fraction bar on the same level as the negative, but then these two will give me a positive 19/7. This is my answer. And let's make sure. Let's see, did I make my slope wrong? 1 minus 7, 2 minus a minus. So this gives me a negative 6 over here. Okay. And this is slope-intercept form. Because I can't see. Let's see. No, that's right. Yep. Yes, I missed my negative on my form here. Okay. Let's try it again. 2 minus. Yeah, it's got to give me that. Yep. Good. Okay. let's try again. Okay. Now this one, notice how they want me to write my answer. Standard form, AX plus BY equals C. But I don't have a slope. So this is x1, y1, x2, y2. My slope is y2, which is 7. Let me get here. Which is 7 minus 3 over 4 minus 2. This is 4 over 2. Oh, this is going to make this nice. It's a positive 2. Okay. Well, once I get this slope, I don't want to look at that point again. I'm now using y minus y sub 1 is equal to my slope, x minus x sub 1. Let's fill in the parts. This 2 is my m. X minus 2. This is my x1. And this is y minus 3. Okay, let's distribute. Y minus 3 is equal to 2x minus 4. Okay. AX has got to go to this side. So let me go to the next slide. This is going to give me a negative 2x plus y. But now I've got to add 3 to a negative 4, which is going to give me a negative 1. Just to go back, I'm adding 3, which is how I get this negative 1. Well, don't forget, this a cannot be negative. I am going to divide everything by negative 1, giving me positive 2x minus y is equal to 1. That is my equation. Okay. Now, this is where I have a better way of doing this. Okay. Because they want a horizontal line. Okay. And I'm going to draw you a picture. This is my x. This is my y. Now my point is right here. Negative 5, 11. We want this line, which means that everything on this line has a y value of 11. If you look at the picture, think about it. What would this point, the blue point, be? 0 but it's got to be 11. If I pick a point over here, this can be 6, but it's got to be 11. And also, if you recall, a horizontal line has a 0 slope, 0x. I'm not writing 0x here. This is one I have to know, a horizontal line. Just look for the y value, whatever it is. Now, some people memorize it, or, as I said, we draw a picture. But hopefully my picture makes it easier to remember that a horizontal line is y is equal to whatever y value you have in the ordered pair. Now, same thing is going to happen here. This is an undefined slope. Well, an undefined slope, and I'm going to give you a little catch. This is my point. 6, -8. An undefined slope is a vertical line. Every point on this red line has got to be 6 with a number, which is x is equal to 6. Undefined slope is a vertical line. And this black dot was 6, 0. This dot could be 6, +8. But an undefined slope is a vertical line. Vertical line. And this horizontal line is very easy to see, or slope equals 0. Now, these two slides are ones you either memorize or you try to reason them out. But you got to know a little bit of information. Now we're going to start putting everything together, because here is where the fun comes from. You're going to write an equation, and it can be in slope-intercept or standard form, but remember that parallel and perpendicular? Okay. What's happening now is you are going to be given an equation, or you're going to be given 2 points. Whatever you're given, you have to find the slope first. And then remember, if you have the same slope, you have parallel lines. If you have negative, reciprocal, or opposite sign flipped fraction, you will have a perpendicular slope. But the key is you got to use that point slope form to write the final form in whatever they ask you to do. Slope intercept, standard form. Now, I will be honest, it's probably easier to show you than it is to tell you, but you always begin with the slope, because parallel and perpendicular algebraically are defining slopes. Well, let's look at this problem. Okay. Write an equation of a line meeting the given conditions. Okay. Express the answer in the indicated form. Okay, the indicated form is right here. Slope-intercept. Now, the line is going to contain. So this is the point that's got to be on my new line is parallel to this line. Okay, first off, what is the slope? Well, the slope is 3/4. We're given an equation. Now, this is my parallel slope because I want same slopes in two lines. I have one line. This line has a slope of 3/4. Well, now we have y minus y sub 1 is equal to my slope x minus x sub 1. This is my x1, y1 point. This is my slope. Well, let's fill it in. Y minus. Now remember, this is a -2 equals 3/4 x minus 4. Well, slope-intercept is y equals mx plus b. Well, let's distribute. Y plus 2 equals 3/4 x. Now, when I multiply these two together, because remember I'm distributing, these 4s are going to cancel. Oh, isn't this nice? I don't have to worry about fractions. But I do have to take this +2 and this -3 and put them together. They are going to be my b term. Well, let's look at the next slide. This will give me y equals 3/4 x minus 5. This is my parallel equation because it has the same slope as the original equation. It has the same slope. Well, let's try this one. Okay. Now, this is going to be a little different. I want my answer, and this should say standard form. Okay. D in here. Okay. Now, parallel. Okay, look at this equation. This equation has to be solved for y. Solve y equals positive 2x plus 6. This 2 is my parallel slope. I have to put it in slope intercept. I need a slope. No slope, can't write an equation. But I can solve for y, and I get a positive 2. And this is my x1, y1 point. Okay, well, let's put it in. Y minus 2 is equal to 2x minus 5. Here's my x1, here's my y1, and here is my slope. Okay. Now, standard form. Y minus 2 is equal to 2x minus 10. Well, standard form is ax plus by equals c. This 2x term is on the wrong side, but this negative 2 has got to come to that side to give me my c. Well, let's look at the next slide. This is going to give me a negative 2x plus y is equal to a negative 8. Okay, but remember, this cannot be negative, which means I'm dividing everything by negative 1. 2x minus y is equal to 8. And if you'll notice, the initial equation is right here. Because we were given, I don't know if you can see that, we were given negative 2x plus y is equal to 6. If I divide by negative 1, 2x minus y is equal to negative 6. This slope and this slope, or these a's, are the same. They're the same. Okay. Now, slope-intercept, which means I can have a fraction. But, see the word perpendicular? Okay, this equation is beautiful. There is my slope. But perpendicular says change that sign. Well, this sign has got to change, which means it's got to become positive, and then the fraction has got to flip. So my slope that's perpendicular is a positive 3. Positive 3. Well, x1, y1, y minus a minus 1 is equal to my perpendicular slope, x minus a minus 1. Okay, slope-intercept is y is equal to mx plus b. Y plus 1 is equal to 3x. Now notice this is a positive 1 times 3. These two are going to give me my b, which is y equals 3x plus 2. That is my equation in slope-intercept form. Now, we're going to have a little more work here. Perpendicular. Now, this equation has to be solved for y, which means I have 3y is equal to negative 2x plus 12. I'm dividing by 3. So this is a negative 2/3 x plus 4. Okay, this is my slope, but I want a perpendicular slope. Well, this sign has got to change, but the fraction has to flip. So my perpendicular slope is a positive 3/2. This is x1, y1. Okay, y minus a minus 12. Now remember, this is a positive 3/2. X minus a minus 5. Okay. This is giving me y plus 12 is equal to 3/2 x. I'm distributing, but remember, this is a positive 5 times 3/2, or 15/2. Okay. Now, standard form. No fractions. And I got fractions here. But the nice thing is, I have denominators of 2. Now, I could go a little further and get rid of my fractions, but I might as well do it here. Multiply each term by 2, because standard form says no fractions, which means I have 2y plus 24 equals, now these 2's are going to cancel, and these 2's are going to cancel. This is very close to what I need. Now I'm going to bring that black equation to the next slide, which is 2y plus 24 is equal to 3x plus 15. I want my answer in ax plus by equals c, which means this has got to come to this side. Negative 3x plus 2y And then I'm going to subtract 24 from both sides because I am going to get my C, which is a negative 9. Well, don't forget, A can't be negative, so I'm dividing everything by negative 1. Final answer, 3x minus 2y equals 9. That is my equation. Okay. Okay. Now we have one more problem to do, and then we're done with 4.5. And of course, it's gotta be a story problem. And again, you gotta watch the words. It says since 2005, vehicle consumption of E85 fuel or ethanol, 85%, has increased by about 8,260 and 7/10 thousands gallons per year. In 2009, approximately 70,916 and 6/10 thousands gallons were used. Okay, we want to write an equation. Now, I'm going to be very honest. When you write an equation, write it in slope, intercept form. That's the best way to write it, which is y is equal to mx plus b. Whenever you want to model that equation, is easiest to write it in slope-intercept, unless they say write it in standard form. But normally, a linear model is slope-intercept form. Now, here's the little piece that you got to remember. Let x represent the number of years. See that little phrase? After 2005? After 2005? And let y represent the amount of fuel in thousands of gallons consumed. Okay, you're going to notice I do not have a slope, but I also have this very nice piece. This is saying one of my points is 0, and how much fuel? 8,260.7. This represents 2005. You gotta have that 0. That phrase after is telling you that you haven't kept track or done any data savings until 2005. Now, this is where it gets interesting. 2009. Well, if 2005 was 0, let me write it here. 2006 was year 1. 2007 was year 2. 2008 was year 3, which means this x value is 4 with 70916.6. This represents 2009. That that represents 2009. Now, we still haven't written the equation because we don't have a slope. Okay, let's take our points. We have 0, 8, 2, 6, 0.7, and we had 4, 7, 0, 9, 1, 6.6. This is my x1, y1, x2, y2. My slope is going to be 70916.6 minus 8260.7 over 4 minus 0. Now, since they always love to give you these in homework, I have no problem if you use a calculator to get my slope, and you are going to get possibly a fraction. 70,916.6 minus 8,260.7 is giving you a numerator of 62655.9 divided by 4. Now, this is going to give you a slope of 15663.975. This is my slope. Huh? That's my slope. 701. Let's make sure I got my calculations right. 79, 1, 6.6 minus 8260.7 divided by 4. Yep. Now, let's write an equation. Okay. Well, here we go. This is y minus. Now remember, y1 is 8260.7 is equal to my slope, 15663.975 x minus 0. Well, let's distribute. Y minus 8260.7 is 15663.975x. Well, y is equal to 15,663.975x plus 8260.7. This is my equation. That is my equation. Now, why do I need that equation? Well, I am going to have 5.3.9 because I got to finish the problem. Okay. They want me to find out how much fuel in 2005. Okay. Well, how much fuel in 2005? I should already know. Okay. Let me put it here. Yeah, let's move it over here. Okay. In, in 2005, vehicles used 3,000 or used 8,260.7 thousandths gallons. Didn't that's what they tell me? In 2000, they consumed 8,200, and in this case, thousands gallons. But then they want me to do 2007. Well, remember, 2007 was my year 2. That means my x is 2. So that means I am writing the equation in 2007. We have y equals 5663.975 times 2 plus 8260.7, which is 15663.975 times 2 plus 8260.7, or vehicles used 39,588.65 thousandths gallons. We put that 2 in our equation for 2007. Now, this is the answer to the story problem. Hopefully you have understood and do the best that you can on the story problems. Okay? And remember that little phrase, after 2005, means 2005 is our 0 marker. Okay? That's our 0 marker. That is our y-intercept. Okay? With that said, hey, I'm signing off. Bye-bye.